So in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain to you exactly how modes work, and hopefully it will de-cobweb all the shizzle in your brain, make things much easier to understand, and you can start exploring modes and modal playing using one scale shape, and it'll change your musical life. So let's begin. Essentially, we're going to be using this one scale shape. Check it out. Now, this scale is a little bit different from the normal ones that you probably have practiced, in so much as it starts on an A string. Now, the reason for that is that I want to have this big fat E string above me available to drone all the time. Well, that's going to be our root, or the beginning of our scale in E. So this is an E scale. Now, the reason we need that is because it's impossible to really hear a mode unless you drone the root note underneath it. So, here's the scale. Start with the second finger on the 7th fret A string. That's an E note, and that's what I'm going to call note number 1. Note number 2 will be with the little finger A string. So this is the 9th fret A. First finger down to our 3rd note, and this is going to be the 6th fret D string. Second finger down right in front of it. Little finger down, same string. First finger down a string, so this is the 6th fret G. Third finger down, 8th fret G. And the last note will be the little finger G string. So it's quite a simple scale. It's only going to cover 1 octave. Here it is again, nice and slow. Now, you might want to spend a few minutes, stick this on pause and get used to that scale, because we're going to be moving this scale around the fretboard backwards and forwards, always keeping it exactly the same shape, but it's going to sound different whenever we put it in different places. And the act of having it sound different will make you want to play it with a different shape. Your hand will want to play it differently. It's just the nature of being a human being, as long as you are a human being. So practice the shape, get familiar with it, and then we'll progress. Now, so taking our major shape, if I play this scale and the very first note is my root note, so I'm playing an E, yeah, and I play the scale over it. Is the good old-fashioned major scale, and in the land of modes we call that the Ionian mode. All these fancy names are derived from tribes in Greece, and these Greek tribes became notable for using these different scales, so they're just Greek names. You could just call them mode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 if it makes you feel better. It's all good. So mode 1 starts on the root. So if I just play it as a scale, it doesn't really sound like much, but the second I put this root down and then drone it while I'm playing the scale, it becomes music. You really begin to hear the sound of the scale. And what's happening is, in your mind, you are, without realising it, subconsciously, measuring the distance between this bass root note and all the other scale notes. And these little distances, from the bass note to the scale notes, we call those distances intervals. So the intervals are what make you feel different things when you hear different kinds of scale or mode. So let's move this bad boy around and cause... That's my phone. How terribly inconvenient. Wait a minute. Hello? Hello, how can I help you? This is Mr. Chapman, yes. So where were we? Oh yes, modes, pitch axis, all that kind of stuff. So we've got our scale, and we know that if we play it with the first note of that scale being on our root, which in this case is E, it could be any note though, we get the major scale. Let's move it backwards 2 steps and see what happens. So here's the scale. So I've made it so that the very first note is my root note. Let's shift the whole thing back so that the second note of my scale is on E. See that? I just moved the whole thing back 2 steps. So now the second note of my scale is E. I'll play exactly the same scale shape. Just sounds like a scale, doesn't it? It sounds exactly the same. The reason for that is because I'm not droning the E string, and what you're getting is your ear is telling you that the first note of this scale is the root. But it's not. The second note is the root. So if I drone the E string and make you hear that, program you to hear it as the root, and then play the scale, suddenly it becomes minor. So you've just experienced modal magic, monkey magic if you will. What you've got here is Dorian. Dorian is what I would call the second mode, because you start on the second note of a major scale and call that your root. So I've taken exactly the same scale shape, I haven't changed the shape at all, I just shifted it back 2 frets so that the root note was on my second note. Simple as that. And you got Dorian. So Dorian is a minor scale with an interesting thing. The 6th note of it is what I would call a major 6th. Now, if you don't know what a major 6th is, you need to learn about intervallics, and we can do that at some point.